US Democrat presidential candidate Kamala Harris defends her policy stances and vows to revive a bipartisan deal.
The EU's foreign policy chief proposes sanctions on Israeli ministers over their remarks on the war in Gaza. Emmanuel Macron signs a deal with Alexander Vučić to sell Serbia 12 Rafale fighter jets. Glass needles fall across the Reykjanes Peninsula as a volcano in southwest Iceland continues to erupt.
Portuguese police have seized more than 6.5 tons of cocaine destined for Europe.
US Democrat presidential candidate Kamala Harris has given her first televised interview since her nomination. She addressed issues on immigration and the economy, subjects she had previously faced criticism for and has been accused of shifting her stance on. On the border, she says she will try and revive a bipartisan deal.
Through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted which we supported, which I support, and Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border, and because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill.
As Democrats scramble to appeal to the American middle class, Harris says she wants to implement what she calls an opportunity economy plan.
Which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now.
Harris faced criticism from Republicans for not holding an in-depth interview sooner. In it, she aimed for a general consensus, seemingly changing her mind on key issues such as immigration and climate change.
The EU's foreign policy chief has said the bloc should consider sanctions on some Israeli government ministers over their remarks about the war in Gaza. Josep Borrell said some members of the Israeli cabinet who he didn't name had released hateful messages and proposed things which clearly go against international law.
And I think that the European Union has not to have taboos in order to use our toolbox in order to make humanitarian law respected. But it's not my decision. I only have the capacity of proposal. Member states will decide.
But the 27 EU member countries are divided over their approach to the war in Gaza, and it's unlikely that all would agree to the proposal. There's already been pushback to the suggestion from Italy's foreign minister, who called it unrealistic.
Dobbiamo cercare di risolvere I problemi, convincere Israele a fare delle scelte che portino a cessate il fuoco a Gaza, perché questa è la priorità vera, non è con il riconoscimento della Palestina teorica, con le sanzioni ai ministri israeliani che si risolve il problema. Serve più diplomazia, servono messaggi.
Those comments come on the same day the World Health Organization announced that Israel had agreed to limited pauses in fighting in Gaza to allow a polio vaccination campaign to go ahead. Described as humanitarian pauses that will last 3 days in different areas of the territory, the vaccination program will start on Sunday and will be run together with UNICEF, UNRWA and local partners.
I'm not going to say this is the ideal way forward, but this is a workable way forward. Not doing anything would be really bad. We have to stop this transmission in Gaza, and we have to avoid the transmission outside Gaza.
The WHO says it aims to vaccinate 640,000 children under the age of 10 and that the campaign had been coordinated with Israeli authorities. French President Emmanuel Macron has signed a deal with President Alexander Vučić to sell Serbia 12 Rafale fighter jets. The announcement was made during a news conference in Belgrade during Macron's visit to strengthen Serbia's ties with the European Union. Macron called the deal historic and important.
Le choix des avions de chasse Rafale par la Serbie est à cet égard un choix clair, celui d'une alliance de long terme entre nos deux pays, au sein d'une Europe plus forte et plus souveraine, et que ce choix participe de notre autonomie stratégique et du renforcement de celle-ci.
Serbia needs to upgrade its fleet, and Vučić said the Rafale deal was huge news.
Pomoćnim logističkim paketom, dakle od rezervnih motora do svega drugog, ukupna vrednost ugovora je 2,7 milijardi, 12 potpuno novih aviona biće u vlasništvu Republike Srbije.
Russia has been the traditional supplier of military aircraft to Serbia, which has refused to join international sanctions against Moscow for its invasion of Ukraine. Macron warned that after the Russian invasion, Serbia's balancing game between world powers was an illusion. He said Serbia will only be able to protect its interests and preserve its identity as part of the EU.
U tom smislu Srbija jednostavno jeste neprikosnovena i pokretač tog ekonomskog razvoja celokupnog Zapadnog Balkana. Ali ono što je činjenica, to nije dovoljno u pogledu dugoročnih perspektiva razvoja Srbije i mora se pokušati da se sustignu ili bar približimo se tim zemljama kao što su, na primjer, Slovačka, Rumunija, pa čak i Hrvatska i Slovenija. U tom smislu jako je bitno partnerstvo sa Francuskom.
But selling Rafales to Russian ally Serbia, which has occasionally expressed an aggressive stance towards its Balkan neighbours, has raised some concerns. One of those is how France plans to prevent sophisticated Rafale technology from being shared with Russia.
The European Union says it won't recognise Nicolas Maduro's government in Venezuela, 1 month after disputed elections were held. Venezuela's refused to give the EU the official voting records, which it says it needs to see to authenticate the results. There's strong evidence to suggest that opposition candidate Edmundo González won by a margin of nearly 2-1. On Wednesday, Maduro's opponents once again protested in Venezuela's capital Caracas, a month after the president was declared the winner.
Ha pasado un tiempo ya más que prudencial solicitando las actas y tenemos que rendirnos a la evidencia de que esas actas no se van a presentar. No hay voluntad de presentarlas y, por lo tanto, no de verificarlas. Los 27, una vez que constatamos que no hay voluntad de entregar esas actas, ¿qué podemos hacer para que sea la voluntad democrática de los venezolanos la que sea respetada y la que triunfe finalmente?
In a brutal crackdown, more than 2,000 journalists, politicians and students have been arrested since the election was held. González, who the United States says was the real winner of the election, addressed an EU foreign ministers' meeting on Thursday. The EU hasn't said who they think won, but it's considering sanctioning more members of both the government and Venezuela's National Assembly. That's not likely to be enough, argues one of the opposition's advisers. The link between Maduro's government and the top ranks of the army must be broken if it's to be encouraged to democratise, Nelson Dordeli Rosales says. And aid must also be linked to democratisation.
Another action that could be some type of incentive is to create a package, an aid package, linked to the democratic transition of Venezuela. So once the Venezuelan transition is in place or is heading to that direction, this financial package will be available for the reconstruction of the democratic system in Venezuela. Those are incentives that could be provided in order to break this situation where you have de facto authority relying on the military for support.
And Rosales has also suggested the creation of an EU special envoy, as has been done for other turbulent regions of the world.
More than 6.5 tons of cocaine destined to be sold in Europe has been seized by Portuguese police. 3 Portuguese men have been arrested and it's suspected they are part of a transnational criminal organisation.
Esta droga não tem por destino final o nosso país, tem por destino outros países do continente europeu e, de acordo com os nossos dados também, naturalmente, tendo em conta a quantidade e todo o circunstancialismo que rodeou estes transportes de droga para território nacional, estamos naturalmente a falar, a responsabilidade por estas importações é de uma rede criminosa, de um grupo criminoso transnacional com ligação a vários países, que tem capacidade.
Operation Tartarus took place over 2 months, during which property searches were carried out and various items and documentation, including several high-end cars, were seized.
Sharp glass needles that are created in volcanic eruptions have started falling on communities across the Reykjanes Peninsula as a volcano in southwest Iceland continues to erupt. The Icelandic Meteorological Agency said jets from the latest eruption have been particularly high, and that's spread the so-called witch's hair over a wide area. The Iceland Review travel website says as it's essentially fiberglass, witch's hair shouldn't be touched with bare hands. The eruption, which began on August the 22nd following a series of earthquakes, continues to pull in international visitors to Iceland. This is the 6th time the volcano on the Reykjanes Peninsula has erupted since December. Authorities say the eruption's effects remain localized with road closures but don't threaten the population. Iceland, which sits above a volcanic hotspot in the North Atlantic, averages one eruption every 4 to 5 years. The most disruptive in recent times was the 2010 eruption, which sent clouds of ash into the atmosphere and disrupted air travel for months.